Father Gaines will always live in my heart as the man who watched a mouse crawl into his sight and slip between the floorboards under the oven of his winter cabin, thanking God for helping the small creature find its place away from the storm. He was a simple man who gave nearly everything he made away to the local shelter for the destitute and homeless. He loved writing simple poetry about how God's loving hand weeds out those who harm the garden, while that which helps God's garden remains to flourish. Maybe I'll post some of it here. It could better describe how gracious he was, a man worthy of the cloth, a true believer who prayed as he slept and was thrilled to so fully and happily fulfill his grace. I loved visiting him, hearing his simple words of mercy to all who would hear them, a mercy that could overcome anything. I visited him every Saturday to Sunday's working sermon, almost all of which was variations on the simple truth that love will pave every path to happiness. I found him sitting in a chair by the wood fire stove. He had covered himself in a brown wool blanket as if he were trying to hide from God's glare. The wooden cross he crafted 40 years ago was ripped from the wall and broken in two. An empty needle, a burned spoon, and his father's Zippo all sat under his limp left arm. The autopsy said that it was unlikely he had done smack before, but the shot he took could have killed a seasoned transporter. His laptop was still on, and his media player open to hundreds of recordings. I had played some random ones. Confession. He taped every single confession for at least 8 years, thousands upon thousands. I'll never know why. The very last one was nearly a week ago, named Erase Me. Out of respect, I did as my uncle probably wanted me to do and hit the delete, only to get an administer passcode authorization box. Stumbled, I did the next worst thing. I played it. "Hello, my child," the dead man's sweet voice said as I stared at the covered corpse. The voice on the other end sounding wrong, strange, elongated, kind of like a voice talking backward or breath being sucked back into the mouth. I hated it. It was like hearing bones being put through a shredder. "Bless me, Father. It has been since before Genesis since my last confession," it said. Have you sinned, my child?" "You have." Its rough, guttural voice still contained a lot of strength, enough to give it an authoritarian stance. It sounded like it worked on my uncle. "How so?" the former priest once asked patiently. "Murder." The word shot like a distant rifle bang. There was 6 seconds of silence before the voice that seemed to have been made of a massive cold wind, that same that comes before a thunderstorm, struck again. "Charles Knopp. You should know his name. To you, a drifter. Target for a boy of 10, a boy by the name of Gaines. You pulled the trigger and that tiny pellet swung into the wind. It pierced his eardrum. He spent his last 2 days crawling in agony in the woods. The pellet festered, his brain infected, with no way to remove it. He went mad before his blood killed him, and he died in a hole more filthy than any in hell. God loves you. He loves all murderers who do his dirt work, but he does not love drifters without affairs." 6 more seconds of silence passed. "And you feel that you can hide from the angel's wrath behind that robe and collar?" Who are you?" my uncle asked in a frightened, watery tone I had never heard in all the years I knew him. It made my stomach drop to the floor, right down to the caverns of the earth. The voice feigned a gleeful delight. "The morning star of all angels, come to redeem your falsehood." There was a sound over the recording, like the crinkling of a small plastic pouch being pushed through the wood screen, a plastic pouch like the one on the ground by his lighter. "Slip this into your blood and let us take you far away from all of these lies. If you don't, you will see how fast lies spread, Mr. Gaines. They will spread like wildfire and consume all you worked for, all that is dear to you. The people, they will see a disgrace unto God." There was a burst of tears. His tears. The recording ends there. Anger swelled up in me like a broken fire hydrant. I stomped, I screamed, and I vowed I would find the people who blackmailed my uncle, who drove him into despair to end his life like this. I don't care if what the damned voice said was true. Whatever mistakes my uncle had made, he undone, and did full services through faith and more. I even had suspects, a couple who had left a sermon fuming because of his message that all people, even those who do bad, are to be loved. I knew only an evil mind could find the belly of an innocent man far past and pierce it like that needle did. I had no idea how evil. Not until I mailed an SD card of all the recordings to a trusted friend's house, even the last file. I thought he could help me out. I thought he could help me have it analyzed somehow, seeing as the originals would likely be confiscated or destroyed. When I opened the mailbox mouth to slide the packet in, a stench of something rotting, burning, festering, and deeply infected belched up from inside, and with it that shredding backwards voice from the tape. "Do not meddle in the affair of angels and men, boy, or you will follow your uncle into hell, into hell, into hell, into hell."